We did it, everybody. We did it. We finally beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. The Jaguars come out with a 26-13 victory in the first game of the preseason. And, well, I guess I just said it. It is preseason. Doesn't really count, but nevertheless, I do think I saw a bunch of good things out of this game. And we're going to talk about it all today. But first, we got to give a big shout out to this video's wonderful sponsor, BetUS. And guys, BetUS, there's a lot of exciting things going on right now. Of course, before the regular season starts, there's a bunch of like futures that you can really bet on. Like right now, there are AFC South odds. The Jaguars are second on that list. Also, the Jaguars over/under win total is out at 9.5 wins. Also, you can bet on stuff like whether or not Trevor Lawrence will have the most touchdowns in the NFL. And, you know, he's kind of buried down the list. He's like 17th or 18th on the list. While Josh Allen is actually fourth, tied for fourth or fifth with Nick Bosa on potential NFL sack leader. So there's that stuff. If that's a little too far-fetched for you or too much of a long shot, you know, Trevor Lawrence's over-under is currently at 21.5 passing touchdowns. And, you know, outside of that, right now, guys, there's odds for every single Jaguars game in the future. So, you know, definitely go out there, take a look at it. Maybe there's some different lines that you like. And if there are lines that you like, look, guys, down in my description box, there will be a link for you. It'll give you a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000, which means that if you put down $100, you're going to see $225 show up in your account. So thank you to BetUS for giving this opportunity to my subscribers. And also, guys, the cool thing is they have 24/7 customer service and also quick 24-hour payouts. So you're going to get that money right away, right after Trevor Lawrence throws the most passing touchdowns in the NFL. So with all that said, thank you to BetUS, and let's talk about this preseason game. So, guys, I know we joked about the Jaguars winning this game 26-13, but the real thing that the Jaguars won was the bill of health, okay? The Jaguars came out of this game extremely healthy. The only really injury scare we saw was Ventrell Miller down, who just looks like a battled veteran out there at war. I mean, he's always coming down with injury. I mean, he had a torn Achilles last year. He has a club on his hand. He's like down on the field. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe just wind knocked out of him, but you know, he got back up and ran off the field. So, yeah, overall, very healthy day. You can't say the same for the Chiefs. I mean, they lost Hollywood Brown very early on. They also lost, it seems like, an offensive lineman. You know, he was on the sidelines. Looked like he got some bad news. So, you know, prayers up for the Chiefs. But, you know, on the Jaguars side, the Jaguars definitely won the war of attrition this game. So, you know, it was said that, you know, Mahomes and the Chiefs stars were going to play a quarter. They only played one drive, and, you know, they got plenty of action. They moved the ball. It seemed like with ease. It was a little bit concerning, but at the same time, both Darnell Savage and Tyson Campbell, two of our cornerbacks, were out this game. So, you know, in a bunch of these big gains, a bunch of these first downs, they were picking on Buster Brown and Christian Braswell. So, you know, it wasn't like they were out here picking apart, you know, really some main starters for us. But, yeah, with those two guys out, he was picking on the backups. And, you know, Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in football right now, and potentially the best quarterback of all time when it'll be said and done. You know, he's going to know how to find weaknesses and pick on that, and that's exactly what he did. But the Jaguars did hold Patrick Mahomes to only a field goal, so that is good and well. After moving the ball a lot, they did hold them, so that was good. Now, we'll go ahead and go over kind of what the Jaguar starters did, because I think that's a good way to start, and then we'll kind of go more into individual player breakdowns. So the new kickoff rule is in effect. It definitely helped out the Jaguars this game. Parker Washington returned his first kick all the way down to the 20. Really, really cool return, and we'll go over that. We'll go over that a little bit later when it comes to the totality of the Jaguars' kick returns today, because it was quite the roller coaster. So after that return to the 20, the Jaguars were immediately set in the red zone. Then Trevor Lawrence had a 13-yard gain to Luke Farrell. And then Travis Etienne had a 2-yard loss on a carry over to the left side of the offensive line. I forget. And then the Jaguars completed a 9-yard touchdown pass to Travis Etienne for a touchdown. And then, boom, the Jaguars go up 7-3. And then Patrick Mahomes, like I said, was done for the day. So Carson Wentz came out there with the second team. I think he got one first down, and then the Jaguars forced a punt. So then the Jaguars' next drive started at the 34-yard line at their own 34. Trevor Lawrence throws a dot to Gabe Davis, which was awesome to see. And then that dot went for 20 yards. It was really just a nice 3-step drop and then just a throw right on the line and complete it to him. And it was cool to see it to Gabe Davis because, in these preseason games, we've seen Christian Kirk. We've seen him make highlights in the Jaguars uniform. We've seen Evan Ingram. But, Gabe Davis is a new toy, okay? A new number 0 is in town. After the last number 0 left a really bad taste in a lot of our mouths. So it was cool seeing Gabe Davis get his reception today. And then after that, there were 2 straight runs, resulting in only 5 yards for the Jaguars. And then on third down, Trevor Lawrence had a sideline throw to Gabe Davis, and it was incomplete. And I almost wonder if Gabe Davis could have caught that one. I haven't been able to find a replay of it, but Trevor Lawrence could have thrown it a fraction earlier. Maybe Gabe Davis could have held on the sideline a little bit longer, but nevertheless, it was an incompletion. So then fourth down came. Okay, the Jaguars went for it on 4th and 5 because why not? It's preseason. And Trevor Lawrence dropped back, 3-step drop. Nobody was open. Pressure came to him. He tried to roll out, extend the play, but he got sacked immediately. And I know when I was doing the live stream, there was a lot of debate. Should Trevor Lawrence have just fired it away because fourth down, he had nothing to lose? I probably agree with his decision. I mean, if you drop back and nobody's open, on 1st and 2nd down, you throw it away. You don't want to take a sack. On 3rd and 4th down, you like to try to extend the play. You don't want to just throw it because literally the worst case scenario there is a player interception and returns it to the house. You know what I mean? You don't want to pick 6, okay? So there is, even though it is 3rd or 4th down, there is legitimate risk to throwing the ball. So with them trying to extend the play, unfortunately, it just didn't work out and he got sacked. And then that was all we saw from the Jaguars offense after that. So I guess overall thoughts on the offensive line was, I don't know, it was maybe a little bit disappointing just because the Jaguars' offensive line was just trash. And, it's not like we're down 3 or 4 starters. I mean, the Jaguars are down 2 starters right now. They're down Anton Harrison, but Walker Little fills in. And for me, Walker Little is a starting level player. The big thing was that the Jaguars were also missing Ezra Cleveland, so Blake Hance was out there having a really bad day. And I know it would be different if the player starting over him was like some kind of all-pro, Pro Bowl player, but, Ezra Cleveland is like an average NFL starter. So does bringing him back in there, does that change that much? I don't know, but the Jaguars couldn't get really anything going in the run game, and that was just a little bit concerning because I know after last year, we were like, okay, the Jaguars this offseason need to just invest like crazy in the trenches, and they didn't. They really didn't. The only new starter is going to be center Mitch Morse, and, we all thought that maybe with Mitch Morse replacing Luke Fortner, everything was going to change like crazy, but it didn't appear so this game. Now, of course, we're taking 2 drives and really like expanding, we're hyper analyzing those 2 drives, and even one drive resulted in a touchdown, but overall, I think it was just a little bit disappointing to see really just a lack of run game and just not even like one really, really good run. It was just, we were just getting stopped and there was nowhere for Travis Etienne to really run. And Trevor Lawrence, it seemed like, with the offensive line, definitely had to throw the ball quick. So I guess the overall theme was that, okay, let's hope that this offensive line can get better. Now, next up, we'll talk about the kickoff rule. Now, of course, Parker Washington had a really good return, and it was a really good return. It wasn't just like he took the ball, ran straight, and, just really good blocking. I mean, he was shifty as heck. I don't even think, Jamal Agnew, of course, had some really, really good returns, for the Jaguars and really flipped some games for us. But I don't think I ever saw Jamal Agnew do anything as impressive as he did. I mean, he was dodging bulls in a living room size. I mean, just the way he was avoiding people in such small spaces was just incredible, and that was really, really cool to see from him. So Parker Washington, to me, I know in the offseason a bunch of people were like, because I made a 53-man roster breakdown on Bleacher Report, and I was kind of taking a look at what other beat reporters were thinking, and there was a good handful of them that said Parker Washington wasn't going to make the team, and I was a little bit confused because I was like, I actually liked him as a wide receiver last year. And of course, he adds special teams ability. But, really after this, I mean, seeing Parker Washington in this game and what he did, there's no way you can cut that ability. You know what I mean? Just it was just really, really cool. So Parker Washington had a really good return to the 20-yard line. Bigsby had a really good return to the 49-yard line. And it's funny with Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby's biggest enemy in the NFL is himself, okay? Because, of course, we saw his struggles last year. He wasn't – it felt like whenever he was in the game, the Jaguars had a turnover. He only had like 2.3 yards per carry. Just a bad rookie year, okay? We'll wash that. So today – he could have easily had a kick return for a touchdown, only Harrison Butker to beat, which Harrison Butker did not look interested at all to try to make a play on it. And he tripped over himself. So, he returned it to the 49-yard line, and that was, man, it would have been cool to see him return one, because I think it would add it to his confidence a little bit. And then the Jaguars, of course, had the really weird safety. Everybody was confused. The refs were going to go on after that play like it was nothing. The Chiefs offense was out there and Doug Peterson sitting there arguing. But, one thing that I learned new about this kickoff rule is when the ball hits the end zone, it's not a dead ball. And I think the ball bounced in the end zone and out, and then Mecole Hardman stepped from the 1-yard line back in the end zone and kneeled it. So it was a safety. So the Jaguars, of course, got the ball. You got the 2 points and got the ball back after the Chiefs were just trying to kneel out for the half. So, yeah, the kickoff rule, some interesting stuff there. Now, my personal thoughts about the kickoff rule is I know I'm kind of in a minority on this, but I just don't like it. I think, of course, it helped out the Jaguars this game. It's a big reason why probably the Jaguars won, but I just think that it allows for the Jaguars offense to have not the Jaguars offense, but just offenses to have way too many short fields. I don't like the norm nowadays is going to be to start the ball at, the 30-plus yard line. I just think that because you're about 25 yards from field goal range. And, when I shared my thoughts on Twitter, people were saying that's the point. They want more scoring for offenses. I'm just not a fan of it, I don't like – I'd rather just a traditional start the ball to 25. If it was me, we wouldn't have kickoffs. Every team would just start off at the 25 and we'd go after it. I just think I don't like having special teams change the game more than it should. But heck, after this game, if we have Parker Washington out there returning kicks, maybe we're in a good spot with this. I don't know, but it's just weird, and we'll see how I guess this continues, and I'll keep an open mind on it. I just think why did we have to change this? I know maybe kickoffs were too uneventful for people's likings, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Am I weird in my thoughts on that, or are you guys kind of with me? So next, I just want to go through some random individual talks about individual players because, we've kind of went over the starters. Brian Thomas Jr. had a really, really nice, long 41-yard catch, and it wasn't even a catch that was in stride. It was a catch that he had to battle for. It was a pass that, while there wasn't pass interference, there was definite pass interference on a play. The guy had his hands in his face, grabbing his face mask. He was grabbing his jersey. And Brian Thomas Jr. made a really, really impressive catch. And it was right on the Jaguars sidelines, and you saw all the Jags players going nuts, which was really cool to see. Tank Bigsby had a really good day. 3 carries for 42 yards. So that's 9+ yards per pop. So that was actually, no, that's 10 yards. No, that's 12. It's 14 yards a pop. Nice for him. So that was good out of Tank Bigsby. Is that really his rushing stats? Let me double check. Tank Bigsby. No, 3 for 28. What am I talking about? Yeah, so he had 3 carries for 28 yards. So that is 9 yards a pop. Excuse me for that, guys. Next up, so he had a good game. Of course, he had the kick return as well. Also, Mac Jones versus C.J. Beathard. C.J. Beathard definitely started off sketchy. Had a couple of nice throws at the end of it. Really, the last couple drives, had one where a guy hit him, had a nice deep ball to Devin Duvernay. Of course, the Brian Thomas. It's funny with C.J. Beathard, he has the ugliest deep balls, but it always feels like players come down with it. The deep ball to Brian Thomas Jr. was not pretty. The deep ball to Devin Duvernay was not pretty. And he's had some deep balls in his NFL career with the Jaguars, in the Bills game. And in the Bengals game, which didn't count. But just a lot of deep balls that are just kind of fluttering out there that wide receivers make good plays on, and he had more of this game, of course. And also Devin Duvernay had a touchdown, and I'm not sure what is up with Devin Duvernay, because a big reason why the Jaguars signed him is because they want him to be on special teams, But in this game, like he didn't play any special teams, he didn't play any kick return, punt return at all, but he was out there playing wide receiver. So I don't really understand, like, so do you not want to risk injury on kick and punt return? But it's fine if you go out there and play and play and play on wide receiver duties, backup wide receiver duties. I don't know. I just thought it was a little bit weird, but Devin Duvernay had himself a nice touchdown. Also, Austin Tramwell, I didn't really know a lot about him going into this game, but he was out there a bunch for the Jaguars. He was a second punt returner out there in the game, and he also had 3 targets, 2 receptions, and 33 yards. So that was kind of a new name that I saw. Terrell Edmonds had he had 2 really, really good hits that actually forced fumbles, which the Chiefs recovered. But man, it was like, whoa, on these hits that he had. I mean, really, really big hits and really legal hits too. So Terrell Edmonds, a former first rounder from the Bills. I'm not sure if he has a place on this roster. If Andrew Wingard gets sent to the IR, I imagine he would probably have a place. But Terrell Edmonds had a pretty good day for the Jaguars. Also, Ventrell Miller was having some good plays as well, and he's a guy that is going to get a lot of preseason action just because he doesn't have a lot of NFL action after tearing his Achilles last year. Jalen Jackson is also, it looks like could potentially be a really good running back in a very crowded running back room. Now, I don't know if he has any shot to make the roster. Let's see his stats this game: 5 rushes for 29 yards. When you look at the roster, I mean, anywhere between either 3 or 4 running backs typically make a roster. And right now, you have ETN, you have Tank Bigsby, you have Dearness Johnson, and you have Keelan Robinson. Now, is Keelan Robinson a roster lock? I mean, the Jaguars invested a 5th-round pick in him. I mean, usually for me, if you're a 4th-round pick, you're on the roster. 5th-round pick, you're kind of in that sketchy range. But right now, Keelan Robinson isn't playing. And if Jalen Jackson is out here doing a lot of good stuff, it's going to be hard to cut Jackson over a player that, like Keelan Robinson, isn't really doing anything. You know what I mean? That hasn't been available. So I'm not sure if Jalen Jackson can find a way on the roster as a 4th running back, or if he'll be one of the last players cut and try to stash on the practice squad. I don't know. We'll just have to see. And moving on, we have another guy I want to talk about is Luke Fortner. Look, Luke Fortner just sucks, okay? In the third quarter, and it's like a lot of times with offensive linemen, you're not really supposed to notice them, but it feels like you always notice this guy out there. He, like, in the third quarter, all of a sudden a play got blown up, a guy runs right up the middle and makes a tackle or a sack. I forget what it was, and it was like, what the hell was that? And it was like, of course, Luke Fortner. And look, I say this all the time, I'm not a football expert. I'm literally just a fan that makes YouTube videos for other fans. You know what I mean? I'm just sharing my opinion. But in my opinion, I've no idea why this guy deserves a roster spot. I would straight up cut him. I can't have anybody sit here and tell me that he deserves a roster spot. I don't care how much you know about football. In my eyes, he should be cut. I don't understand why. If Mitch Morse goes down, boom, he's the first guy out the bench. Like there has to be better players out there. There has to be. So Luke Fortner continues to disappoint. Very frustrating. And last guy I want to talk about. Look, guys, we have a new kicker, okay? Cam Little's out here. If you combine Cam Robinson with Walker Little, you get Cam Little, okay? He was 3 for 4 on field goals with a long of 47. Also 1 for 1 on his extra points. And, Cam Little, the only kick that he missed was like a 62-yarder, which you can't really fault any kicker in the NFL from missing a 62-yarder. And it wasn't like it was a big shank, okay? It had the distance just a little bit off. But it feels like we finally have a kicker here in Duval. So I'm excited about that. So with all that said, the Jaguars, they wrap up preseason game 1 with a win. They also are healthy. We also saw some stuff we wanted to see. We saw the Brian Thomas Jr. deep catch. Cam Little made a bunch of his catches and, saw some highlights here and there. Of course, not too much work from the Jaguar starters, which honestly, that's what I mainly care about. I know there's people out there that, love to see the roster battles and guys competing for jobs. Me, I don't have a lot of interest in seeing a bunch of players play that will be in the XFL, USFL pretty soon. So that's what that is. But next up, the Jaguars had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Jacksonville. Also, joint practices this week on Wednesday and Thursday. If you guys can, definitely make it out to those, because if there's any preseason events that you want to go to, it's that. Because the Jaguars are going to get so much work where, the Jaguar starters won't play at all. And week 2, because they get so much work against these guys and joint practices in a much more controlled environment. So I'll be at a practice on Wednesday. Let me know if you guys will be there too. And very, very exciting stuff as we edge closer to week 1 in Miami. And with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please drop a like if you guys enjoyed the video. Also, shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. 125% deposit bonus, 24/7 customer service, and quick 24-hour payouts. With all that said, enjoy your victory Sunday. Go Jags.